ADHD, and you're listening to the TyePod. Well, hi, everybody. It's another edition of the TyePod, and I'm joined by Caroline Hughes today. And she is an adaptive yoga instructor and kind of a holistic type of practice, right, for people with disabilities or adaptive techniques to help them with, various limitations. But I'm definitely excited to learn more about what you do and how you have gotten into the space, and definitely can see where with my muscular dystrophy you might have some ideas to work on stretching and things like that. So it's great to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for hosting this and for having conversations around such an important topic, just health and wellness, especially as it relates to folks with disabilities and mobility challenges, because it's just something that I feel like is not spoken about enough.
Right. I agree. And I think that there's this stigma or assumption, that it's not something that people with disabilities can do necessarily, or and I'm guilty of it back in college. I looked at yoga and all that as only a physical thing. And it took like me leaving my job with gallbladder stuff and recovery and all these things. I started digging in, and it was like, oh, this is much deeper and much more than stretching. You know what I mean? So it's very cool to see, someone who's actually working with disability and making that kind of the focus.
Yeah, I did not know that you were yourself into yoga and
Yeah,
practicing some of the many
it's
branches of it.
it's very complicated, and I know just the very very top level stuff. But I had a friend who she'd been doing some like massage therapy that was custom to what I needed, and then we started doing some breath work. And I was toying with the idea of getting certified too at some point, but
Mm.
that's maybe something in the future, but we'll see. um
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Breathwork is a very pivotal and accessible practice, and one that's it's kind of like a gateway into
Mhm.
the all the different limbs of yoga is what they call them.
Right.
And yeah, you have to, prepare your body for meditation. And ultimately that's not something, we might want to have some moments to stretch, to breathe, to get our minds clear before we sit and meditate.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think they kind of miss that first step and they're like, "Oh, I can't do this. I'm really bad at it."
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
but it's a practice and it starts
Yeah.
just with 1 minute, 1 mindful minute.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I know that some sounds, like calming sounds and breathing, like that's how you drop into those deeper, meditations. And it's hard to just expect it to happen right away without, sort of like you said, prepping for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and having a coach or a guide can be, I mean, that's how we
that's
excel at anything, whether that's school or, we wanna specialize in some specific type of movement or sport or something. It's gonna take a coach to kinda bring you to those newer levels of depth.
absolutely. Yeah. And it's a deep practice. And I think it has a lot of potential for, it might not be a cure all, but definitely it's a way to manage pain and symptoms, and, especially like progressive disease too, because for me, like muscles like just tighten up like crazy, and you can't really do the same level of stretching. But it's like, well, if you can fire nerves maybe, or just like shift or move, like anything seems to be good. But
Sure, and there are just so many simple things that people can do with a little bit of assistance. And
mhm,
sometimes it can be this really beautiful bonding thing between, a caregiver or a family member or
mhm,
someone personal in your life. And another thing that just sometimes we need to be shown, like some of the easy things that we can do, and then of course you can build upon those skills and
yeah,
widen your library of postures and things that that will help you with things like spasticity, rigidity. I know for folks who sit in wheelchairs most of the day, like the tightness that can be experienced in the front body just because of this like shortening of the hips, the shortening
yeah,
of the chest and of the neck. It's like even though wheelchairs are customized
right,
to such a beautiful level nowadays, there's still this need that our body we have to move. It's how
yeah.
everything works together, and maybe we can't or people can't voluntarily move on their own, but that definitely does not mean that movement is not crucial for them as well.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious, like how when they don't have the physical ability, is visualization like a possible thing? Like while you're meditating, like can you kind of like intentionally, you know, I guess target areas that are problems just from sitting and breathing and putting your mind like on one place?
Yeah, absolutely. I love doing physical body guided meditations where
Yeah,
you think about just for a few moments, like, can I relax my jaw? Can I soften my tongue? Can
yeah,
I bring all of my awareness to my left shoulder and really scan it from the inside out and be present with it? And can I invite that part of my body to release or soften? And actually, there's many studies that show that even visualizing movement in the brain, if you're unable to move independently, it can still fire all these parts of the motor cortex and can
yeah,
give you this endorphin release and kind of make you feel good. So of course, and I think that actually, there was a research study, I can't quote it at this exact moment, but
yeah.
it was for people who had, nerve pain with spinal cord injuries, and they started to do these, simulated walking where they were doing, like, visualizations of walking, and so many of them reported, like, huge decreases in their neuropathic pain, which I thought was so fascinating. Also, just one little tip for a lot of folks who are in the chronic pain realm is that oftentimes it can become this output from the brain. It's not necessarily that there's damaged tissues or a structural issue, but it,
Mm,
it is this deep grooved of like a neural pathway within the brain. And so a very simple and very accessible breathing practice that I like to teach people is when you breathe in, you repeat to yourself mentally, I am. And as you breathe out, you say, I am okay. And you want to make the exhales a little bit longer than the inhales, but just continue this breathing in, I am, and this breathing out, I am okay. And that kind of dampens the smoke detectors in our brain. Like our brain is constantly like,
yeah.
I'm not safe. This thing is
Especially now, right? It's like so distractible, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And just like coaching ourselves through the process of like, I am safe right here, right now. And then the brain can actually start to minimize the
Mm,
output of this pain response. Um,
yeah.
so that's a really helpful tool. And actually, I have many students, they're like, Caroline, it's so simple, so effective. Like I was just
Yeah.
having a bad day and I felt all my pain coming back. And like, sure enough, I could feel it just start to kind of dissipate. So it's like taking your control back a little bit.
Right, right. No, it's such a it is simple, but it's some of those simpler things are more powerful, I think, in this specific practice too. And like I was saying on breathing work, I had tried a technique where you basically would hold one side of your nose, and like breathe in through one side and out the other. But
Yeah,
I
Nadi
can't,
Shodhana.
yeah, and I can't hold obviously physically, but it's the funniest thing. I was able to start visualizing just and almost feeling it going in and out. And it kind of freaked me out because I didn't expect to actually feel it, but I did. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it's so calming for me, and
Yeah.
many people I work with. And I love that you said that you were doing the visualization of that because um, I have only done that maybe one time, and I was shocked because normally I use my hand, but like I should experiment with that more myself because it is like you start to notice how the breath really influences our energy, like whether we're feeling um, maybe a little erratic or anxious, or maybe we're feeling sad and low vibrational. Like doing some of these breathing practices, it's like you can start to feel different things open up or different things. Just become possible.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, and it's fascinating to see what we can control within our
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah. I had so many doubts, if that would even be possible. I was like, wait, why are you even telling me this breath? Because I can't hold my nose. But
Mhm.
no, it's even I think I built in probably 2 minute sessions, 2 10 minute sessions per day, like morning and night. And like at my peak, like pain level. And it was I don't remember ever being that calm and relaxed. And I mean, it's tiny routines make such a difference to me, at least. And I'm curious, like, what is your sort of? Do you have a routine that you do each day that you make sure to do meditation or things like that?
Yeah, I try my best to meditate every day. I discovered that meditation at night before bed is the best way for me to calm my thoughts. It's funny because my partner wakes up at like 5:30 a.m. and he
Hmm.
meditates in the morning, and I've tried that, and that's just not my style. It's
Yeah,
I can do it if I'm awake by chance, but no, it's all about like kind of finding the time of the day that works for us. And I also consider like I have a dog and I take her on walks every morning, so I consider like my time in nature to just be this like very beautiful routine that helps me look, outside of the four walls in
Yeah,
my room and in my apartments. And I feel really lucky. I mean, I'm kind of I'm so in love with what I do that I do it 6 days a week with,
yeah,
working with others and so I'm practicing yoga with my first client on, and to be honest, every now and then I'm like, "Okay, Caroline, it's time where you have to go do your own practice without anybody here."
right.
But sometimes I tell people I'm like, I'm a really big proponent of movement snacks, which is just finding, maybe we don't have a whole hour of the day to enjoy a workout or to
Yeah,
a yoga practice, but finding, like you said, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. That's how I like to kind of sneak it into my practice, sneak my
yeah,
practice into my day. And I love doing things like laying on the ground with my legs elevated. I have a lot of friends who have like the tilt in space wheelchairs. And so I
yeah,
put
yeah.
like the wheelchair and they'll like tilt all the way back and keep their legs elevated and hold that for 5 or 10 minutes. Just focus.
That's the kind I have, and I've been wanting to use it more, like in increments like that on stretching instead of just something to sit in, right? Because I mean, it affords you can stretch back, hips, legs. I mean, the whole thing is automated. So it's like, well, you can get into
Yes.
almost any pose as far as like being on your back and moving, I think.
Right. I mean, there's probably at least 6 to 8 poses you could do just from your wheelchair and having that access.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and stretching the fronts of the hips is so important too. So like maybe sitting in your power chair and just reclining back as far as you can to open up the fronts of the hips and stretch the quads.
and even if you're in like the sitting position, basically, right? Like you would just stay like that and then
Yeah,
tilt or just any combination.
it'd be like if you're in a sitting position, but you would lay the back all the
Mhm.
way back.
Okay,
Not tilting, but just
just
reclining
gotcha.
the
Yeah,
back of the seat.
yeah,
Yeah, I tell people to do that one all the time. And then if they can have someone bring one knee to their chest, part of me is gonna like jump on the yoga
yeah,
mat and demonstrate all this stuff.
yeah, yeah,
But, and then just doing some side body openers, leaning to one elbow, leaning to the other. A lot of people who use wheelchairs are very aware of pressure relief and how important that is. So it's like
absolutely. Yeah.
maybe turning your pressure relief into little mindful movements.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a multi-purpose tool, I feel like, for that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as like disabilities, kind of what is the spectrum? Do you kind of do like, extremely like severe disability ends kind of on the other side where it's not too much or
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
I started mostly teaching able-bodied people. And I had a gentleman reach out to me. He was working with my mentor at the time who moved out of New Orleans, and he had multiple sclerosis for around 30 years and had been in a power chair for a pretty long time. And he was like my guinea pig.
Mm-hmm.
I had just gotten back from Thailand and had learned a bunch of Thai massage, which I really infuse into my yoga sessions. And it really just helped me get more comfortable working with other people's bodies. And so we started doing Thai massage and infusing yoga poses into it. And then it just kind of sent me on this new path. And now I work at a nonprofit part of my week where I work with people who have, like one of my clients who I see a couple times a week, he has a C4 spinal cord injury.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, he does use a power wheelchair, sip and puff. He doesn't really have movement below his neck,
Mm-hmm.
and he uses a ventilator, and so we found ways to work around that, and yeah, it kind of goes all over the place. Like I have some
Mm-hmm.
clients who've had mild brain injuries or people who had hip replacements that didn't go as well as they thought they would.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel really grateful to have this knowledge because I feel kind of at this point I've had a lot of practice and I feel pretty confident working with anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I would really like to know how you even like started that journey, like just a little backstory if you want to share like how you got to this job and everything.
Yeah. Okay. Where do I start?
It could
um,
be as brief or as detailed as you want.
okay. Okay.
Like the elevator pitch version would be fine too.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Because it has been a journey. I'm 34 now, and I got into this work when I was about 26, so almost a decade. After college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I moved to New Orleans from Pensacola, Florida, and thought I was moving to the big city. And It's actually just a pretty small city, I found out, but,
Yeah.
I signed up for a yoga teacher training. That was something that was really calling to me. I loved yoga. It was the only thing that really helped me with stress.
Mhm.
Actually, another little backstory was when I was 18, I was diagnosed with anxiety from this doctor in college, and he immediately put me on, like, 90 Valiums a month.
Uh-huh.
And so it put me on this path of just, kinda not learning how to regulate my emotions on my own, and it kinda sent me into, a little spiral of addiction, if I'm being honest, and so
Yeah, okay.
it wasn't until I was about 25 where I was like, "Okay, it's time to start changing some things. This has been going on for long enough, and it's, not serving me anymore." And so
Yeah.
and nothing against medication, it was just for me
True.
personally at that time. But yoga was the thing that I turned to, and I kind of became obsessed. And I finished my yoga teacher training, and I had this amazing mentor who was a yoga therapist. So I started to work with her. I started to take all of her classes and courses like
Mhm.
restorative yoga, adaptive yoga therapy. And she inspired me to go to Thailand because Thai massage is it's a really beautiful way for somebody to receive a yoga practice
Mhm.
and to get comfortable with your hands without maybe taking the dive to or the commitment to go to massage school.
Mhm.
So, yeah, when I got back from Thailand, I had all these questions about the body. I had an injury. I hurt my wrist, and suddenly,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
doing my work was really hard. And I went to physical therapy. I had a great physical therapist, and he inspired me to look into the physical therapy assistant program, which was a
Mhm.
2 year program, but you learn pretty much all the same things that physical therapists learn, minus some of the in depth studies and research that they do.
Mhm.
So, I did that with the idea of making yoga a more therapeutic practice,
Mhm.
and then that just sent me on this journey. I worked in inpatient rehab, I worked in outpatient therapy, in acute care, like in hospital settings, and then when I graduated, I found this nonprofit called Split Second Foundation,
Mhm.
and they are a gym that is dedicated to working with anybody. And it was so cool because it wasn't formal PT,
Yeah.
and, I had freedom to do really whatever I wanted.
Mhm.
And so I was so lucky because I had a couple of really great mentors, an occupational therapist and a physical therapist who had been working in the neuro realm for many, many years. And so I kind of got to bounce ideas off of them, see how they worked, and then just kind of put a yoga twist on things.
Okay.
And, yeah, and I started an adaptive yoga program there, and then I started my own little side business, Accessible Yoga Practices, where I'm in the process of creating courses and content that really demonstrates all the ways that yoga can be accessible and inclusive
Mhm.
to people. And,
Wow, that's really great. Like, so it's like a structured, organized sort of curriculum almost then for adaptive yoga.
yes, and I
Yeah.
really want to tailor it towards physical therapists and yoga
Okay.
teachers. Um, we all need continuing education, especially the PTs, and so, yeah, I just it's so disappointing. I get many people refer to me and they're like, "Well, I was doing Pilates or I was doing yoga, and then I had this injury, and then my teacher said they couldn't work with me anymore." And I don't know, to me, that's just like a sad excuse for not
Yeah,
having the
yeah,
knowledge, but knowledge is power, and, I just want people to understand that just because someone has a disability does not mean that you have to treat them any differently or
yeah.
have to it's still the heart of practice that you're sharing with folks, and
Right, right. Yeah, no, I definitely, know the that kind of thing with therapists, PT and OT from back when I was in like high school and like they there were so many injuries of like overstretching and like just kind of forcing, things. And obviously like as the disease progressed, that became impossible, with well, I have the contractures, in several areas that restrict joint movement. And so it was like I'm not going to keep doing something that's hurting me. And so it was like, well, I'm just going to abandon it, and that's not the right way to go, I don't think. Once you kind of, you know, if you find the right therapist or find, somewhere that's going to actually, I guess, openly maybe teach you and listen to what you're feeling and that kind of thing. So I feel like this is a really powerful area that you're, tapping into and then bridging, from yoga instructor to like PTs and OTs. That's such a I don't know. There needs to be a thread, I think, that kind of blends those together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. I mean, and it's unfortunate to hear that you suffered injuries while doing PT. I think
Yeah.
also, I mean, that was in the school system, I'm assuming, right?
So I had one in the school system and then one that was part of a physical therapy practice. Yeah. So
Yeah.
one of each, and it was same kind of issues with both.
Yeah, and I think some people kind of go in like, I know how to fix this person. And it's
Right.
like, no, actually, we're not here to fix anybody.
Right.
Um, we can give them tools, but ultimately, like, we can't change somebody's diagnosis or
Yeah.
situation. And I work with a guy who has muscular dystrophy, and he has some muscle contractures too. And I was
Uh-huh.
kind of naive in the beginning. Of course, I'm always like checking in, like, how does this feel? Do you want more? Do
Right.
you want less? I think that communication piece is
It's
huge.
huge. Yeah.
And some PTs kind of are just talking and getting into their flow without really checking into people.
Yeah.
Um, and that's unfortunate. But yes, the muscle contractures are a part of MD, and
Yeah.
there's no amount of stretching that you can do to correct it. Um,
Right. Well, what are there things that you can do to sort of, I guess, slow it down, or I don't know about reverse it, but just try to keep as much flex as you can?
yeah, I tell people frequently, it's like you just have to bring that joint into the motion that's limited.
Mm,
Low load, long duration stretches are the best. So holding the stretch for anywhere from a minute to 5 to 10. And I love restorative yoga. I don't know if have you practiced or heard of restorative
no,
yoga?
I don't think so. No.
So it's a style that was created by a physical therapist and yoga teacher. But it comes from India. Actually, there's a style of yoga over there called medical yoga, and they do it in hospitals with folks who are ill and in their beds for long periods of time. And the idea is that you use pillows and blankets and foam pads and wedges and all these different pieces of equipment, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
to just bring people through a variety of positions. And it's so nice because you can do these low load, long duration stretches
Mhm.
by getting people into a posture. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to let you just kind of simmer here and
Yeah.
breathe. And then I'll come back in 15 or 20 minutes. And so Judith Lassiter really took that training that she had done with BKS Iyengar, who's like a big, well-known yoga teacher who's no longer, he's no longer on the planet.
Mhm.
But and she's really modernized it. And so I use that with almost all of my clients as well, most of my students. But I would say, just as frequently as you can, stretch those joints,
Yeah.
hopefully like 2 or 3 times a week. Um,
Uh-huh.
and it would be so interesting to me to meet a younger person with MD, to see like and of course there's like AFOs and
Right.
the gear that is
Yeah, definitely.
not so comfortable. But I think incorporating that as regularly as you can. And I know people
Yeah.
have been like, I just they don't want to do it anymore. So it's like, how can I do this stretching and make it more enjoyable, more fun, and feel better?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm always torn, like, is it something you push it like one joint to the edge of the contraction? Like how far is, enough is what's tricky for me. And then it like it might seem right at the edge and stay there, but then it tends to go overboard and go ahead and like almost
Ah,
hyperextend.
interesting, huh? So I know, like, for example, the gastroc, like the calf muscle can get really
Hmm.
tight. And so the foot kind of starts to point downwards.
Right.
So ideally, you would want to bring the foot into dorsiflexion is the position that
Hmm.
they call it. And if you can have someone kind of hold on, I like to do this thing where I hold the heel with my hand and then I
Uh-huh.
put my forearm against the base of the foot and just pull it back as far as I can. And I say, okay, tell me when. And then we'll get to that point, and then I'll say, how is that? And I often like to rate stretch.
Yeah.
So I'll say, is that mild, moderate, or is that pretty spicy?
Yeah.
I want
Nice.
this to be like
Hey,
an
hey,
open.
I like that being more of that kind of scale than like 1 to 10 pain level that you see in the hospital. It's like that
Sure.
it's a
It's like
nice
there's a
spin
lot
on
of
it.
variability here.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really cool too that you have the feedback of the person you're stretching, to actually tell you, what they can feel or what feels like too much. I mean, that communication I think is just essential really for preventing worse injuries and things. So
Yeah, and just being
yeah.
really mindful within that experience in and of itself, like for both the receiver and the person giving Um, and then also there needs to be like, okay, we're gonna hold this for 30 seconds or a minute.
Yeah.
And then something I also like to do is like a pulsation within.
Yep.
So like kind of go to that in range and then come out
Yep.
and then go back in and maybe
Yeah.
do
The friend
that.
that introduced me to that kind of, we would do a little bit of those motions, and it really, it does help.
Yes, I think it's better than just like that static holding of a posture.
Much better. Yeah.
Because you're also shortening and lengthening the muscle while you're doing that, which can
Mm.
help return blood flow to the heart, can help with the lymphatic system if you ever get swelling in your legs or in your arms. Um, so those are some things I really like to lean into, just that super solid communication and
Yeah.
constant reminder sometimes that you're like, you can tell me to stop.
When it's, yeah, when it's good. Yeah. Do you find that, is it therapeutic to you in some ways, like actually helping, like actually doing the stretching and things like that, or do you find it's kind of hard to be relaxed, I guess, yourself, or be, I don't know if it would stretch your own muscles, anything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I make fun of people. Oh, well, people make fun of me all the time because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna bring you into the stretch, and then it's like, I'm gonna adjust myself so that I feel nice.
Mhm.
And I'm like, sometimes someone's elbow will be like, I don't know, jabbing into my back, and I'm like,
Oh
oh,
no.
feels nice. So it's like a, I
Yeah.
have learned ways, but it totally depends because sometimes I'm practicing yoga with people on this giant mat that I have access to at a split
Mhm.
second that raises and lowers. It's so incredible. And then sometimes I'm practicing yoga with folks in their bed. And so those are two very different experiences.
Definitely. Yeah.
Um, but for the most part, I also want to feel good while I'm doing the work because it's yoga for me too. I need to be mindful of my body or else I could, bend or turn the wrong way and hurt
Mhm.
myself. And it's important to be very aware of your own body mechanics while
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
facilitating stuff like
And
that.
it, I would think you'd have to be even like hyper aware with disability in some cases, right? Because it's like there's, I don't know, it can be complicated or heavy or like awkward positioning. And so, I mean, I'm
Mhm.
sure that could be taxing on your, on your system too.
Yeah, and actually there's some days where I'm low energy and I'm like, "Hey, we're going to maybe not do as much as quickly as I
Yeah.
normally do it." And actually, as I'm getting older, as my body is changing, I'm noticing there's some things that I don't really feel called to do anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and and it's in some way you kind of have to stick to the basics, to the simple parts of the practice.
Mm.
And sometimes we like to bedazzle it, and I do. I'm guilty of get super creative, and then it's like,
Yeah.
ah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's
That makes sense.
novelty is fun, but yeah, sometimes it's good to just stick to stuff we know that works and
Right.
see what progress can be made there.
Right. I mean, it's all about, to me, that's like customizing it, for the person and what their situation is, for sure. Um, as far as like Thai massage, what's distinguishing about that as opposed to maybe other forms? Like, is there something specifically that's focused on with that?
Yeah, good question. So Thai massage is done fully clothed. There's very rarely oils used.
Mm.
Um, you don't do it on a massage table. It's most, I mean, you can, but mostly it's done on the floor on a big mat. And what's really cool is I have some clients that have Hoyer lifts, and in some situations, we'll lower them down onto the floor, which is very liberating. Like there's a lot of room when you're on the floor that maybe you wouldn't
True.
have on a massage table or on a bed. And there's also this grounding that a lot of folks in wheelchairs, I don't think have
It's
the
true.
privilege of doing as frequently. Um, but Thai massage, it was, created in Thailand around 3,000 years ago. And it's very interesting because it's kind of this fusion of traditional Chinese medicine and
Mhm.
Ayurveda, which comes from India and yoga.
Right.
And so it's like receiving a yoga class, is what I like to call it or to describe it as. And typically you address like acupressure points and sin lines, which are also called energy lines. And
Mhm.
what's very interesting is they run along like very neat paths in the body that also correlate and correspond to our cardiovascular system, like our arteries and veins, and they also correlate to our lymphatic system too.
Mhm.
So while you're doing this, it's like a palming and a thumbing technique to help open up these energy lines. It's very interesting because you can really find areas that are very dense, very blocked, But once you open up the whole body, then you start to explore stretching. And so
Yeah.
typically you start from the feet and you work your way up. Um, it's very common that people will address the abdominal area, which is so not a thing in the West. Like, I've never gone to a massage therapist who was like, "Can I work on your abdomen?"
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's fascinating because it's the center, the epicenter of the body, and
Well, there's got to be like tension and stress and stuff there too, right? I mean, like that.
absolutely. I mean, you can
Yeah.
do releases for the diaphragm, for the liver, for the small intestines, the bladder, really all the organs can be addressed. And sometimes we might have tension and tightness that's coming from our hip, but it could
Mm.
be referred pain from an organ. Um, but also, typically, you'll go through poses that are done laying on your back. You'll do poses laying on your side. You'll receive massage and do some stretches while seated. Like my friend who has MD, we do a lot of seated stuff in his bed, which he loves. So he has a bed that the
Yep. I have one of
made.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'll kind of sit in front of him in between his legs. I'll grab his shoulders and pull him forward.
Well, yeah.
And then that way we can do side body poses. And I mean, we can really get creative. I wish we could try it on the ground. We used to do our sessions on the floor
Hmm.
before his breathing became a little more labored.
Mm. Yeah.
And so because I think I could get him seated, which has been great also for his back, like to hold that
Oh, yeah.
they call it lung sitting, but to be in that position is so beneficial for people. And it's nice to use the bed, to help us
Yeah.
sleep
Yeah.
here as well.
It's similar to the power chairs, right? Because you can oftentimes adjust and stretch into very specific, ways, and that's huge. I'm curious. In my case, so I tried to use a Hoyer lift and a sling for not even getting on the floor, but just transfers in general. And something about the contractures in my knees and then the hip areas like made it where the legs don't fold together as easy. Um, and so like when I try to get a sling there, the
Uh-huh.
amount of pressure on the hip and knee joints, it's impossible for me to use it, and so I've been like, there's got to be a way to kind of get into that.
Yeah, I know also Hoyer slings typically have different loops,
Right.
like several different loops. So did you
Yep.
kind of play with,
It had like 3 or 4 loops, I think, too.
okay,
Um,
like at the
yeah,
top and at the bottom?
yeah, yeah. There's both. But
Hmm.
and I'm not saying there's probably one out there. I just haven't found it yet.
Yeah.
But
I'll have to send you a picture of the one my friend uses.
okay, yeah, yeah,
Because it kind of supports more of his bottom and then like underneath his hamstrings. So it's not so much
yeah.
on the joints,
Okay,
but that's not to say that
Tr-
you know, everyone's.
true. Right, right. And I'm just like constantly on the hunt right now, trying to find something that would allow me to do that. But probably incorporating more stretching, more massage, that kind of thing would, in theory, I think it would make it maybe doable at some point. But
Right, especially if
yeah,
you haven't received anything in a long time, like those
it's
muscles can just get so contracted and tight, and
yep,
it's just so important to help restore the mobility of the muscle itself and
yeah,
get some fresh blood flow. I know sometimes I won't personally get a massage in a long time, and then when I get one,
yeah,
I'm like screaming almost because
because they're so tight. Yeah.
areas can become so hypersensitized,
It's yeah, definitely. And then I even have like these weird sensitive knees on the inside. And like I'm telling you, I could touch it with a feather sometimes, it feels like, and that sensitivity is like shooting pains going through. So,
Mm.
it's I feel like there's things in your practices that maybe could help, alleviate some of those things, but I'm like trying to always learn and see what's out there, for improving.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, my client who had MD had very sensitive feet. Like the
Okay.
balls of his feet were so tender when we first started, I could barely apply pressure. And now I'm like cranking on his feet
So,
and he's fine. So
yeah.
I think it is just about like frequently exposing yourself to those stimuli in a safe way,
Right.
and easing into it and then just continuously doing it because the body remembers and it's like, okay, this is fine.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
gradually it
break my
gets
knee.
used to the response, right? And then it's better. Yeah. Yeah, that's something I've need to pick back up on because I know it makes a big difference. But yeah,
Yeah, and
so many
actually,
questions.
this could be helpful for folks is, if you are interested in receiving this type of work, I would recommend, well, I'm so happy to help with people, especially if they have someone who could assist them during our sessions if they need that level of assistance.
Yeah.
But also, if someone really wants to work with someone in person, because manual therapy is incredibly important,
Right.
I always recommend people reach out to yoga studios and ask if they know of any yoga therapists because they have completed around 800 hours
Okay.
um, or 1,000 hours of training,
Hmm.
typically have been educated in in working with diverse groups. Or, sometimes you can find someone who's a yoga teacher and a massage therapist. So
Hmm.
having that combination could really be wonderful for people.
Right.
And,
Right.
it all just starts with having like a little library of 10 to 15 poses that you can do together. But that's kind of what I like to recommend to people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good to know because I know how it was helping me short term, and then I moved to a different state and all these things, and it kind of gets lost. And now I'm like, okay, maybe I should bring some of that back in again because things are starting to get grumpy with the tightness on certain areas. So
Yes,
yeah.
and that also, when our bodies are experiencing pain,
Mhm.
sometimes that's an indicator that like we need to change positions. I don't know if that's ever happened where you've like gotten in your bed and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, so much better.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, how can I diversify the movements in my chair, if it's not time to get into the bed or whatever.
Mm,
Um, Having a few poses you can try to see if that alleviates things or, doing the breathing practice,
yeah.
saying that I am okay. That can always like kind of just dampen those pain responses.
Yeah. Wow, that's such a good practice, I think, for doing that. Like just to condition, things to back to where they were maybe when the massage was working and the yoga was working. And even I'm starting to do that, like what you're saying with the chair, where I can actually get a very specific, almost like a really condensed position and stretch, and that kind of helps the blood flow. And then I go back the other way, and it's then stretch out, and it seems to kind of help alleviate some of the issues too.
Yeah, I mean, becoming a detective
Hey, that's a
is
good.
really
That's
part of the
actually that's
puzzle.
accurate.
It's like these things definitely help bring it
Yeah,
down just a notch, you know?
yeah.
Um, yeah, it takes time. And that's another thing that yoga is really beautiful for is it's this practice of self-study. One of the limbs of yoga, it's called svadhyaya.
Hmm.
It's like deep inner listening and being really truthful with ourselves. Um, and that's been so interesting too, because obviously we go through so many seasons of our lives
Hmm.
where we change and
That's
we
for sure.
experience new things. Yes, and
Physically and mentally, and other ways too. Yeah,
absolutely. And so it's important for us to like always have just a few minutes in our day to be like, okay, how am I? What's going on?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Is there a limb that's kind of your space, like you just like have so much into it, or you like it so much better, or do you find it's kind of the entire, like all the limbs together is kind of the experience? I'm curious how you feel about that.
Yeah, I enjoy all the limbs. And if you were to quiz me right now, I could probably list the majority of them, but it's like
Yeah.
asana, which is the yoga postures, pranayama, which is
Hmm.
breath control. There's the yamas, which are like
Yep.
restraints, and there's the niyamas, which is
Hmm.
like morals and ethics. There's also dhyana, which is like a single pointed focus where you're about to commit to meditation. And then dharana, which is where you go deep into a meditative state.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm definitely missing some, but I really love this practice of pratyahara,
Hmm.
which is called sense withdrawal. So it's when you're in meditation and you start to go past the ego's labeling of like, I am Caroline and I'm a physical therapist assistant and a yoga teacher and I'm a dog mom. We have all these stories about who we are and
Labels and yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And so the idea is in yoga is it's uh, practiced in a country. It's not Hinduism, but it's inspired greatly from Hinduism, and the
Mhm,
idea is that we have a soul, we have a body, we have a mind, but we're not our body and we're not our mind. We're something that's deeper. And
mhm,
when we practice pratyahara, we close the eyes, we are in a quiet space. We're we're not being like pulled from one way or another with our phones and with devices, but we're really just sitting with the essence of who we are. And
mhm,
I think that is like a profound experience, especially one that people don't tap into much anymore. And it's like, who am I
mhm.
without all these titles and stories? And
Right, just kinda stripping it down kinda, right, to, like, the more, like, they're not basic, but the actual core of the person, maybe, if that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Love also this, I can't remember
Mm,
exactly who shared this, but they say that when we're born, we are a drop that is extracted from the ocean, and the ocean can represent this, like, universal consciousness or this
mm,
universal soul, and then we're kind of living these individualistic lives, but when we die and when we go back to the sea, it's like the drop of water returns to the whole soul, and we discover that we were all really the same anything anyways.
yeah.
And I like to just
Wow.
even visualize that when I'm meditating. It's like, where's my little droplet of water
Yeah,
and
and
how
water
can
is
I
such a good, I think, idea or concept for that.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, how am I, connected to everybody on this planet? And it's like, yes, because we are, in theory, souls having
Yep.
human experience.
That makes so much sense too that, my mission has kind of become this idea of humanness, and, like, how disability or not, there's still that commonality or things we share, just the human experience, I feel like, and that I don't know, that seems like it really is where, where yoga taps in to that too, like, as kind of an all-inclusive, human experience and not just adaptive yoga or, different specialized parts. I don't know, it's interesting to kinda deep think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all are humans here
Yeah, yeah,
dealing
no, I
with.
just getting the thoughts flowing here on this discussion a lot.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, well, I'm curious, kind of one of the last questions is, was there a moment or a patient that you had that was just like, you felt like, well, this is clearly where, confirmation of working with people with disabilities and teaching them yoga and things like, was there an aha moment or did it just build up to that point?
Hmm. Yeah, I think there was an aha moment actually. I had just done an adaptive yoga training. So this was before I went to Thailand.
Hmm.
And one of my friends, his sister was diagnosed with ALS. Um, she had had it for about 8 years at the time and had, she had how did she say? She was like, I've overextended my life expectancy, or she said my expiration date. She was like, I'm past the expiration date. And she, it was a real challenge for her and her family. And
Wow.
I went to my friend's house and I was like, look, I learned some adaptive yoga things that I want to try with your sister. And he was like, "Oh my god, she would love that so much."
Yeah.
And so we went over there and I remember she was on a ventilator and she was, sitting in front of her computer where she could do the eye gazing,
Oh
texting.
yeah. Yeah.
And I immediately walked in and I had this, like, essential oil, and I was like, "Okay, I want you to breathe with me, breathe in and breathe out." And then I saw her, like, looking puzzled. She typed to her computer. She was like, "I have a machine that helps me breathe." And so we both, like, were giggling about that, and then we moved on, and I put, like, a yoga block in between her knees and put a little strap around her legs, and I rolled up a little towel and placed it behind her spine, and I did all these things my
Yeah.
teacher kind of instructed me to do. And I started to just push on her knees so gently, and I could see her eyes just like, "Ah."
Like melting almost, so,
Yeah.
yeah,
And, I remember feeling that in the class when I received some of these same assists, and, it was just like a really special experience, and she was like, "This is incredible," and I taught her husband how to do some of these things
yeah,
with her, and, um, and we did a little meditation. I think we did some other stretches, and, But yeah, after we left, that was a moment where I was like, that felt like I don't really know what I want to do in my life, but I want this to be a part of it.
Right. Wow, that's so great. The expiration date thing is something that I've had forever, and probably so many with different diseases. But like in high school, I would just like sometimes be Googling and looking up, and it would say, well, it's a fatal disease. You only make it to like 20, or 15. And I'm like, well, that's depressing. And then, you get past that point, you're like, well, maybe there's not like a set tag or statistic that says, like it's your time to go. And like quality of life, I think extends life too. And it's kind of a weird way to put it, but like when you
Oh,
have
for
good,
sure. When you
yeah,
have like motivation
yeah,
to keep going in this humanness that we're all a part of, the highs
yeah,
and the lows. And I know that disability can probably feel like just intense when you're going through other life
always,
things like paying
yeah.
taxes and I don't know,
But
whatever
you're still expected to like contribute to society through regular normal means or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely, and
yeah.
it can feel hard, and I don't know, I think, one of my friends, he was also just told that his heart is, like, at 40%,
Like function or
output or
capacity or
function, yeah, and I was like,
yeah,
"Well, how do you feel?"
yeah.
And he was like, "Well, I feel okay," like,
See that? Wow, that I really relate to that so much.
yeah,
That's wow. Yeah, it's funny how many similarities there are, which I guess in some ways makes sense, but still you learn about things, you're like, yeah, I've gone through that, and it's like these little things like that de-stress or that relax you and everything. And just I can't help but think it helps you get past. Well, for example, I had a partially collapsed lung going all the way back to like 2011 or something, I believe. And I hadn't seen a pulmonologist any time since then, so over a decade. And now I just started using one in the last few years. So it's like, you don't always know, even if something seems like it's wrong, you can still adapt function and like it's not there too. So it's just so much variability, don't you think, in like how disability is handled and I mean
absolutely.
incorporating things like what you're doing.
Yeah, and I have some people who have been really pushed medications from their doctors, and they're like, "I
Yeah.
didn't like how this stuff made me feel," and who cares? Like, we're all gonna die anyways one day.
It's a good point. It's a very good
Um,
point. So you might as well try to find something that, that makes it
right, I may as well live
enjoyable.
my life, like you were saying, quality of life, like, I may as well, like, listen to my body and do what I wanna do, because
Yeah, yeah.
we luckily have that agency.
Yeah, that's very true. Wow, I got a lot of things that I'm going to be contemplating now, I think. But what's next for you on your journey and where you want to go with the practice next? And do you have kind of like a list of goals kind of you want to achieve or just keep enjoying things as is maybe?
Yeah, well, I have a big change coming up. I'm going to take about 6 months to travel.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to be with my partner in Corsica, which is this island off the coast of Italy that's a part of
Mm,
France. And it's an incredible place. I mean, they have beautiful beaches and mountains. And I've heard, and I've done a little research, that they have some really incredible adaptive outdoor
mm,
recreational activities.
okay.
And so I'm kind of tinkering with this idea of getting into some outdoor sports, but also just getting connected to the disability community there to see
Yeah.
if they want to do yoga or receive massage. And
It's probably a lot. I mean, I would imagine it's quite a bit different from US on that.
yes, for
Yeah.
sure. And I don't speak, I just started practicing French in December. So there's that. But I'm hopeful that I'll be able to find a couple people who want to try this out with me.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna go to Thailand and take more courses. And then my goal is kind of during this time, I'm gonna be working with people just virtually, just on
Hmm.
Zoom. But I do want to create a lot of courses, especially one, I want to do an adaptive yoga course for physical therapists and for yoga therapists or yoga
Hmm.
teachers, massage therapists. That would be about 30 hours. So kind of this bigger scale where I would be educating people on pathology and yoga to support specific pathological conditions and
Yeah.
talking about the philosophy of yoga, talking about the breathing practices and really diving into all the limbs. And just sharing that with people who work in the healthcare field, I think feels like a really important task for me
It
right now.
that is so sorely need like, I don't even have words for how needed that is from my perspective.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
healthcare industry, and it's, of course, people are very burnt out, but I think we need to
Yeah,
start thinking in a different way of how to have care options for people.
I agree.
Like insurance companies have kind of sucked the
Eh,
care out of
yeah,
healthcare.
yeah,
And unfortunately, I don't take insurance. I have private pay, but I work with people. I'm like, let's do a sliding scale. Let's find what works. But I think people are
yeah,
going to get really creative because people are burnt out and they're tired, but they still love nursing. They still love physical therapy and OT.
yeah,
They're real gems in the
yeah,
therapy world, and in the healthcare world.
yeah,
So it's going to be interesting to see what directions, how things shift and change. Uh,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah, and I guess last thing I wanted to say is if anyone's interested in learning a little bit of adaptive yoga from me, I have a free adaptive yoga guide that's on my website, and it's about a 45-page PDF,
Mm,
kind of on all these things that we spoke about. But there's
yeah,
also 10 common yoga poses with versions of the pose in sitting, standing, and lying down.
okay,
And so that makes it accessible for people. It's like, okay, I can lie down, I can do 10 yoga poses.
yeah.
Um, And
Well,
then
I know I'm gonna download right away probably after the call.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wrote it a few years ago and I loved it. I
yeah,
just haven't really had the time to write again. So, I'm also doing a weekly adaptive yoga class, and I
mhm,
have an adaptive yoga class library that is good for seated practitioners and for those who like to stand. I like for it to be inclusive. And, I think it would be great to have, if you have someone who can assist you through some of the postures, like if
yeah.
you can do it too.
Right, right. Yeah, that's kind of the whole message I wanted to visit with you about, and it just there's so much potential, I think, to treat disabilities with, with that approach too. I mean, it's untapped, I think, in a lot of cases. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see, kind of where things go next. And definitely I'm gonna start learning and seeing if I can, maybe incorporate some of these stretches too.
Absolutely, and I tell people, like, I'm an open book in
Yeah.
July, especially when I relocate, I'm gonna have a lot of time on my hands, so just
Yeah.
slide into my DMs, not my instant messenger.
You're
That was a while
that
ago.
going back to AOL a little bit.
I'm showing my age a little.
Hey, that's about where I'm at too. The 40 number's looking a little too close for my taste, but
Yeah, it's
yeah,
getting there.
yeah, yeah. Well, I really appreciate the time, Caroline, and I didn't get to it at the beginning, but if you want to share your walk-on song that we talked about before,
Oh my gosh, it's such a silly song, but whenever I see people in the gym, at the nonprofit, people almost always address me with Caroline, like the
that's
Outcast
fantastic. Yeah,
frozen
yeah.
song. And it's better, in my opinion, than Sweet
Well,
Caroline.
I was gonna say, do you get some of that one as well?
Oh, I've had it way too much though, and it's just,
Oh,
I don't know. I prefer the
that'd be
Outcast
tiring, I
version.
would think. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Well, that's a good choice. That's a very playful song. I'm a fan of that one. Yeah.
It's got a
Well,
really good rhythm.
it does have a good rhythm. Yeah. Yeah. Like I sure appreciate it, Caroline. And
Yeah,
I'll be keeping in touch and, DMing you a little bit here and there too. That I think that you
absolutely,
provide
and
a resource that's really needed. So
absolutely.
yeah.
You just need to go to accessibleyogapractices.com to
Okay.
find it says free resources. You can click on that and access
Yeah.
whatever. But thank you so much for this opportunity. This is my
Yeah.
podcast, and I'm excited to maybe keep doing more in the future.